Hi, 575B class. This is our Module 6 quiz that I would like to review with you. So here it goes. Let's see. Question 1, burnout in the workplace. I want to see is this true or false. Burnout in the workplace has been described as exhaustion resulting from excessive demands of the workplace, and it often results in high staff turnover. So there's a couple things to this question. Is burnout related to excessive demands? And does it result in high staff turnover? And the answer is yes, it is true. Childcare field has one of the highest staff turnover rates because of burnout. Okay, I want you to be thinking about what is a good listener. So good listeners are people who listen when they nod. When they reply, I understand what you're saying. When they maintain eye contact with you, and also when they paraphrase what you say. When you say something back to me and I tell it back to you, but not in the exact same words, then I am a good listener. Good listeners think about listening more than they think about what they're about to say. Some examples of really positive communication in a childcare setting would be to have communication sheets about accomplishments. So these are kind of like awards or, a little note that said, hey, she used the scissors today. So I'm letting a parent, the other workers in the location know what this child did and what their accomplishments are. They took 3 steps today if their growth plan is to learn to walk on their own. Other positive communication is invitations to events, opportunities for things. It also can be thank you notes. What is not is a payment reminder. Sure, that's a communication, but is it a positive communication that's trying to build like trust and relationship? No. It's a great communication, probably should be sent out. However, it's not in that positive communication that we're looking for, okay? To build that relationship with a client and build trust and a back and forth communication. You can improve communication, again, by being a good listener who uses eye contact, and also by having weekly reminders of the events to come. It goes back to that whole payment schedule thing. If I'm only reminding you I'm only communicating with you when you need to pay me, and I'm not communicating with you about how your child is doing, what fun things we're offering, what I'm doing to improve your child's life, then it's not really great communication. We definitely don't want to be changing policies frequently. We should have our one set of policies and keep them as standard as possible. And then you also want to be as emotionally available and sensitive to parents as you possibly can. Okay? So in terms of communicating difficult things, telling a parent of your child care that their payment is late, or telling them about behavior problems of their child, some things that can be really helpful is the sandwich method. So remember, you've got 2 pieces of bread. That's our sandwich, and we've got the meaty part in the middle. So we're giving a positive piece of bread and a positive piece of bread, and we put that quote-unquote meat of the idea, the thing that you need to kind of give them information about in that middle piece. So say something positive about them or their child, give them the information that might not be taken as positively, and then follow up with something else positive or assurance and belief that that the child's going to get better or that you guys can work together. Any of those things. So that is kind of the best way. So we're really trying to surround the disappointing information with something positive. Good communication between a a childcare provider and their guardian, there's lots and lots of benefits for it. And some of the benefits are that parents will be more comfortable when you communicate well with them. Children will be more comfortable, and the children typically receive better care. So with that said, when you're looking at your essay, when you're looking at your questions, I want you to remember that in the question it says, these benefits include all of the following except. So you're only going to pick the answer that does not create good communication. And we really want the parents to ask questions. We don't want them to ask less questions. We really want to have a dialogue. Dialogue is back and forth information. Some of the negative consequences to burnout are adults, caregivers catch colds, they lack motivation, they become depressed, they can actually have problem in their home relationships because they're so stressed out about their work relationships. So that's not an uncommon thing to have. Burnout can best be avoided by if you're eating healthy, if you're exercising, if you have good sleep habits. Even though talking to friends and taking a vacation are great ways to reduce stress, which is awesome. That's an awesome way. Burnout can be avoided by actually creating these long-term, more systematic ways of changing your life. And so I want you to watch what is the burnout can be best be avoided by really adopting those healthy habits of exercising and having sleep habits, healthy habits. We're talking about a really long, good standing time of that changes your overall stress level, not just in small segments of your stress level. Okay. I want you to match a couple terms. So again, gender relates to cultural attitudes and opinions and behaviors that are assigned to a person's biological sex. So that's what gender is. Disability is any type of a physical or mental impairment that limits your activities. It could be a physical disability, it could be a mental disability, it could be an emotional disability, anything that kind of limits your major life activities, that is what we would consider a disability. Race is a person's physical differences, my skin, my hair, my eye color, that is considered socially significant in certain parts or certain cultures. So that's what race is. So race is about that physical appearance that is very common in certain cultures. Ethnicity is when are the shared cultural characteristics, language, ancestry. That's what ethnicity is. Sexual orientation is about the kind of physical acts of sexuality. So it's person's how you identify in terms of who you are sexually and emotionally attracted to as a partner. And so that's your sexual orientation. Finally, socioeconomic status is it's a definition of a person by societal terms and factors related to education level and occupation and income. So it's really just, about that. Getting closer to the end, guys. Bear with me. So to decrease stress and burnout, we already talked about a few things. Talked about like decreasing stress by like holidays and talking to friends, decreasing burnout by healthy exercise, by healthy sleep routines, by healthy eating habits. So to decrease your stress and burnout and to boost positive self-esteem. So we're going to take these things away, stress and burnout, and we're going to increase something else. What we want to do is have a real positive, be able to identify positive things about yourself. We ask children to have healthy self-esteem all the time. It's helpful for a caregiver to model those things. So identify positive things about yourself. Also accept personal weaknesses as areas of potential growth. So just being able to accept that. Learning from your mistakes is a great way to boost your self-esteem. Because then it's not about the fact that I didn't do it or I made a mistake. It's about the fact that I have a mistake and I can do something different about it. Your self-esteem usually shouldn't be related or isn't important really to focus on what others say. Or believe that anyone who puts you down to change your behavior is a good idea. So that's just not a good plan. So we're looking at you having control over yourself, learning from your own mistakes, accepting weakness, your own weaknesses, knowing what they are, accepting those for a willingness to change, and then also identifying those things that you are great at. The big point here is for you to realize that having a positive self-esteem doesn't mean that you are amazing all the time. You can have a positive self-esteem and recognize that there are challenges that need to be overcome. Because we want people, we're humans and humans make mistakes and people aren't perfect. And so those two things can sometimes they need to be an awareness of I love who I am and I know where I also need to grow. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with sitting in that. That's what a positive self-esteem is. That's what we were trying to model to children. So in modeling that to children, play teaches children to be curious. Play is an amazing way to do it. Spending time with you is an amazing way to do that. So play, you want to be curious about the world. You want to teach curiosity about the world. Play teaches persistent. Play teaches focus, a focused attention. Play teaches initiative and problem solving and trying to fix things. So play is an amazing way to get out emotions and also to build relationships and self-esteem. In this unit, we're finalizing our parent handbook, and your parent handbook is really important for so many reasons. It helps communicate essentials about your childcare business. It helps to serve as a reference guide for parents so they can go back and see what your policies are. It clarifies the childcare provider's expectations for the parents. It conveys a tone of professionalism so that you have that in writing and that you take what you say and your behavioral techniques and your strategies and your philosophy and your mission all very seriously, and that's professional. It also cuts down on time-consuming telephone calls because everything's written out in a very clear way. What a parent handbook doesn't do is create more strain. It doesn't strain relationships. It shouldn't strain relationships. If it does, and you haven't done a very good job of creating your good anti-biased language within your parent handbook. So that would be the accept that we are looking for. I want you to think about your parent handbook as having an illness policy. We're talking about stuff that's really broad is what your parent handbook has in it in terms of policies. So we're talking like your overall immunization policy. That's not something that's going to change 2 months from now, most likely, I'm hoping. So it's something that whether you have 5 children in your childcare or you have 10 children or you have 2 kids that are infants and 2 kids that are 5-year-olds in your childcare, it doesn't matter because your policy doesn't change on who has to be immunized. Your policy won't change in terms of what your discipline strategies are. Your policy won't change about drop-off and pickup procedures. Your policy, no matter who those people are, about illness shouldn't change. Your disaster and emergency procedure, that shouldn't change. So all the policies that are in your parent handbook are things that are going to be, regardless of the demographic, or location, that's not going to change. It's put in your parent handbook.